evening, everyone. It's 5:35. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We start off with roll call.
Alda Benavides present.
Anthony Oresti present.
Esmeralda Solis present.
Nereida Cantu present.
Mary Hernandez present.
Roberto Zamora present.
And Alex Cantu present. I do declare a quorum. Moving on to item number 3, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll keep standing up for their invocation. 30 seconds of silence. Thank you. Moving on to item number 5, public comments. We have none. So that brings us to item number 6, public hearing to discuss the La Joya ISD Independent School District 2023-2024 budget and 2023 proposed tax rate.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the school board, Superintendent Mr. Gonzalez, and members of the community. Today we'll be discussing the proposed budget for the 23-24 school year, and you should have received this just a little while ago. All required publications have been made. They were published on June 8th and 9th. Our financial transparency website has been updated with the proposed budget as outlined by House Bill 1. On the next page, these are the budget facts for the 23-24 budget. The preliminary property values are $3,588,985,795. The district will not receive actual certified property values until July 25th. At this point, we'll repeat the process of posting all required publications and determine the actual proposed tax rate and come back to the board for approval in late August or early September. The projected tax rate has been calculated at 1.1456 or $1.14.5. It is broken down by the maintenance and operations of 0.8925, 89 cents and a quarter, and debt service of 0.2531. The 0.2531 in debt service will generate enough funds to meet our debt obligations. Based on the preliminary property values and the tax rate, we'll have an estimated tax levy of approximately $40,237,566, of which we anticipate a 98% collection rate for budgeting purposes. This will generate $39,432,815 in collections. It is broken down by maintenance and operations in the amount of $30,720,834 and debt service in the amount of $8,711,981. In this budget, we projected an average daily attendance of 21,250. The budget includes a one-time stipend in the amount of $1,200 for teachers, librarians, and nurses, and for all other employees, a one-time stipend of 2% for midpoint based on the employee's pay grade. Debt payments from the general fund amounted to $5,248,096, and in the debt service fund, $18,478,500. The district's share of the healthcare premiums did not change. It remained the same. The workers' compensation rate remained the same as well at 1%. And listed are additional budget requests by division for the 23-24 school year, including 3 conventional school buses. On the next page is the budget summary. The budget summary lists all funds by funding source. I'd like to point out to you the subtotal of the general fund. The total budgeted revenues equal the total appropriations, giving the district a balanced budget. The general fund does have transfers out to the proprietary funds to cover excess appropriations, including the health insurance fund in the amount of $2,541,986. I'd also like to point out that the ESSER funds listed are salary amounts only that were moved from the general fund. Once ESSER funds are exhausted, these salary costs will revert back to the general fund. On the next slide, or on the next page, is the appropriations by function. The same totals as the previous page, but they're broken down in columns by the general fund, the special revenue funds, and the debt service fund. As you can see on the totals column, the majority of the appropriations on Function 11 for instruction. On the next page is a pie chart of a breakdown of revenues. 64.1% of the revenues are coming from the state, followed by the federal funds of 24.8%. On the next slide is a pie chart of the breakdown of appropriations in the governmental funds by function. I'd like to point out the red area, that big large portion there, is 52.9%. That's appropriated for instruction. So we're putting more than half of our funds into instruction in this case, on this budget. On the next page, page 7, is the appropriations by object. These are broken down by object codes. As you can see, the largest appropriate amounts are in payroll costs in the amount of $271,994,867. On the next slide, we have a pie chart, and this is page 8, of the appropriations by object. As you can see, the payroll cost reflects 74% of total appropriations. And that concludes my presentation. I'd like to know if there's any questions from the community members or anybody here.
Any questions?
You, on transfers in and transfers out, you pointed that out.
Yes, sir.
What is the source of those transfer in and out funds?
The main part is on the transfers in. If you go back to page 3, Dr. Somora, and I'll go back on here on page 3. The majority of the transfers, what we're doing there is we're moving funds to the athletic fund of $3.9 million, to the state special education fund, $14 million, and to the early education allotment of $2.5. The rest of the transfers is $2.9 million, which if you can see towards the bottom of the page, you have $201,000 going to the sports and learning complex, $182,000 going to the print shop, and $2.5 million going to the health insurance fund. So that's
You said to see page 3?
Yes, sir.
My page 3 has a chart.
Oh,
It's on the screen.
it's on the screen. It's this one right here, the one with the yellow top. Should be.
Okay, yeah. So those monies where you have under transfers in and out, those
Yes.
23 million, they're in general fund,
Yes. Those are going transfers out. That's why it has a negative.
from general
symbol.
fund.
Yes.
Does that get into the fund balance?
Does that get into the fund balance? We're not touching fund balance here at
Okay.
all. Mhm.
That's what I want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then you had the other one had to do with the special revenues. I know that you started off with the 200s. Is that all federal programs or what are those?
Those are all federal programs, sir. And yes, we do list them here for transparency purposes. It's not required by the board to approve, but we do bring it here to reflect the other fundings that we have, the other funding sources that the district has.
You're talking about the federal funds there?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I only had perhaps a clarification on the stipend, on the one-time stipend. I know you all said it in the work session, but just so that I can understand it better, back on page 2, it says one-time stipend or pending legislative action.
If any, correct. So at this point, we don't know what the state legislature is doing, right? We don't know what they're going to approve, if anything. So if they don't approve anything, we're going to go with that one-time stipend to give to employees of $1,200 for teachers, librarians, and nurses. And for everybody else will be 2% from their 2% increase for midpoint based on their pay grade or their pay grade, right? If they're a custodian, auxiliary. So that's what that is. But if there is any type of legislative action between now and September, as opposed to them increasing the basic allotment and then requiring us to give an increase in pay, that's what we'll be giving within that one-time stipend.
And so if it's not, let's say that they don't,
Right.
then this is going to be the one-time stipend?
Yes.
Is that, where is that going to be from?
That's coming from all funds, including the general fund. The majority of it is the general fund.
And was there a reason why it didn't get included as part of their salary so that they can see a benefit when they retire and
Yes.
not a stipend?
The reasoning behind that was we didn't want to increase our salary range or pay for the next year. When ESSER funds are completed, we will still be stabilized at the current rate we are today. We won't have to fund another $4 million, what it may cost us approximately.
We're using that as an internal control, correct?
Yes.
Just so that our base salaries remain steady.
Yes.
Because we're uncertain what the state is actually going to be able to do, or what they will do to increase our funding.
Yes, sir.
So it will still, they're still, I mean, they're going to get it regardless of what the legislative session does?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
There was a document that we received with the staffing allocations and the salaries, not the salaries themselves, but how they were going to get paid. In that particular one, similar to what we had received last year, we had ESSER funds listed as 282. In that particular document, we have them listed as 199. The only ones that I saw as 282 or ESSER funds were the nurse assistants or the nurse's aides. And I think I saw a nurse for 281. The 282s were only nurse assistants. So we saw them there, or I saw them in that document as 199s. And here in this document, you're saying all of the 26 million that are in ESSER here are for salaries. So which one is?
What we're going to do is reclass it. We had began, put them in back in 199 to see what our cost would be in 199. And so that's why you saw all of those at 199 on that booklet that you received in the staffing allocation.
See, that was consistent with what you all had told me before.
Yes.
Or had told the board.
Yes.
That you were going to shift everything to 199.
Yes.
But now they're shifted back
To
ESSER.
282. So there was some available funding that came about through ESSER, right? Not all ESSER monies were utilized. So I'm trying to take advantage of those monies on Fund 282 so I can still save the general fund and build a fund balance from that.
Okay, then do you have the notebook on the budget? So I was just going to refer to page 61.
Oh,
Is that part of our discussion for this?
It's the ESSER funds, yes, sir.
Is
The
that
budget,
part- no.
yes, sir. It's a budget.
Is that part of this presentation?
it's
Well, I'm looking at the
Mr. Garcia.
budget amendment, but in the
Mr.
ESSER
Garcia.
fund, let me give you the other
No.
page number.
No, it's not part of this?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. Yes, it is, sir.
Our administration is telling us that it's not part of this presentation.
What, ESSER funds are not part of this presentation?
Right, what happens is now you're extrapolating, Dr. Zamora. We've had 4 work sessions and also a finance committee meeting, and we're going back to the point you made last board meeting. And you could have made that question to me before this meeting, sir, with all due respect. And so at this point, we can discuss ESSER funds, even the following. But right now, you know that this board has a pressing deadline to adopt our board. That's why we very carefully and diligently and meticulously presented 4 work sessions, plus we had a finance committee with board members included. And so what we've presented to you, what we're presenting tonight is a solvent, is a very responsible budget for this district. And so extrapolating and discussing ESSER funds is, I think we've had enough discussion, ample discussion on ESSER
I
funding.
am not wanting to delay it. I just want to make a point
Okay.
for him to answer, because we have 26 million, and I was looking at the ESSER funds there, and then it's distributed in different areas. But all of that information then will be for salaries, correct?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Any
That
other
was my
questions? Well, first of all and foremost, I'd like to thank our administration and our board members for taking the time and everyone that participated on all our work sessions and our finance committee as well, to get us to this point and approve our budget for this next school year. I know it takes a lot of time, but thank you for all the hard work and dedication that you all have done, and we commend you for being there for us, and also our board, especially also our finance committee. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
If there's any, moving on to item number 7, public input. Is there any public input? With that being said, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. LJISD, a second by Ms. Solis. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned at 5:50.